Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I wanted to make a video on this, but lately I've been seeing it a lot more on YouTube. So I figured I would just do it now. And over the time, I've developed, I guess over the past year or two, it's an area that I've developed a lot of healthy interest in. And a lot of passion and slight obsession with learning more about. And that's the carnivore diet and the impact it had on my anxiety. So before I get into the video, I just want to tell you all again to please remember to subscribe to the channel and like the videos. If you do get anything out of them, obviously I talk about this a lot, like 80% plus of the people who watch the videos don't subscribe. And it just takes away from the time to be able to do it. So when I make the videos now in the beginning, I'm going to throw that out as kind of a little disclaimer. So with that being said, let's jump kind of into why I really wanted to make the video. In the beginning, when everything was going down with me and my anxiety was horrendous and my heart was going crazy, the first thing I did was go to the cardiologist. And when I was in the cardiologist, you know, I was scared. I was scared out of my mind. Like, I thought I was dying. And I remember the cardiologist said, "Oh, don't worry. I can promise you that you're not going to die." Which, looking back, like, it's kind of crazy when you get that far into it. But anyway, when I had the follow-up meetings, and we went over test results, and we did all that kind of stuff, and the cardiologist was like, "Oh, you just have like extra beats in your heart, like everybody has them. It's not a big deal. Just go about your life, basically." So I'm like, okay. It doesn't work, first and foremost. But on top of that, you get told like what's heart healthy and how to go about like creating a meal plan and just going on certain kind of diets. And you know what you hear about is typically like the mainstream rundown of leafy greens and, you know, vegetables and some fruits and, you know, lean meat, basically. So that was the first step like I took in anything in terms of trying to fix my situation. I was like, okay, like I made a point to kind of do what I could do in terms of just trying to get things started, like get the ball rolling and start going in the right direction. So I was like, okay, like I'll do this. So I'll go more vegetarian. So that's what I did. I started to eat a lot more plant-based. I would still have some meat, but it would be lean meat. Like I'd have some chicken and some salads, a little bit of fish. But like what I found for myself was just that, like I was feeling worse, and I don't know if it was just because. So I'll say some things just to be transparent and to be honest. Like I don't know if that was just because I was still dealing with a lot of anxiety-wise, or if it was also because of that plus, you know, the things that I was eating. So I followed down like that path for a little bit, and I was just feeling worse. Like I was like my body was essentially was just feeling hollow to me, and I was feeling everything that was going on in my body. Like I was already sensitized, and I was already sensitive to like feeling certain things in my body, and I was starting to feel everything. I was starting to feel heartbeat, just randomly, and it was just like it's just a really strange, kind of scary place to be in. So. Like I went down that road, and I will say too, like there's also studies, you know, I came across these things as I've kind of been going through my own little learning journey with all of it, is that the further you stray away from like animal products, the more likely you are to have anxiety, some kind of mental issues. That's kind of been shown in studies and literature. And the one paper I saw referenced a couple of times on YouTube from different speakers and different doctors and people that are in that field is that when you get to the vegan point, you are like 50% more likely, as I think it's at least 50% more likely to develop some form of anxiety, depression, or mental disorder in some way, shape, or form, because you're just not getting the nutrients that your body needs to keep it going strong. So again, like, take it for what it's worth. You can disagree or you can agree. I don't really care if you agree or disagree. Like, I just kind of look at studies and what people are saying, and I kind of start to do like my own little research. So, all I'm looking to do is kind of tell people my story and what I've been through, and like, where I started from, what I started doing, why I switched, what made me switch, and then just kind of, hope to, trigger some kind of spark in somebody that makes them start to go down the same path. And if I could help anybody do it, then that's worth it to me. So anyway, after I started to feel worse, I was like, okay, like, this is not working. And I started to develop even more things. And the tinnitus, or tinnitus, I want to call it, was one of the things that also just kind of came out of nowhere after all this kind of stuff was happening, and after my diet change. Now, again, I don't know if it was due to that, due to a lot of just the stress of the anxiety and what it was doing to my nervous system and things of that nature, or if it was just multiple of these contributing factors. Like, I'll never know that, but it just like that showed up. Like, that was never there, and then all of a sudden, boom, there was just like constant ringing in the ears. And it's not like, some people I hear talk about that too, and just like, oh well, it's almost like when you watch a war movie and a grenade goes off and you just hear that ringing, but eventually that kind of goes away. But this did not, and it essentially has not, and it's still something that I deal with. It's one of the few remaining last ones. It's improved, but it's still there, and it's still a pain in the ass, but my mentality, my mindset has just gotten better around it, and just better in general. And like, I do attribute a lot of that to the dietary changes and lifestyle changes that I made, which I'll kind of get into in a little bit, because I did have some of the ones written down, so I hope I can remember some of the things that I had written down, because I wanted to share with everybody. So I was already feeling terrible. The ectopic heartbeats and the skip beats were kind of going crazy. And then the tinnitus and tinnitus kind of picked up too. So I had all these things kind of going on at once. Like, I was having some vision things, and the tinnitus and the ectopic heartbeats, and I was just like literally like a mess. My life was just kind of a mess. So I was like, okay, so like I gotta stop this now, and I gotta try something else. So after that, I decided, okay, so let's go the opposite direction, and I started reading more about keto and carnivore. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this now. So I started eating like a lot of burgers, burger patties, mostly. Like, I try to cut down greatly on the carbs and the sugar. So I would have I would order a burger patty or something, make sure that it's kind of like cooked, or what it's, I mean, I don't know what they're using, the coat grills and all that kind of stuff. I didn't put too much thought of that at the time. I just wanted to eat more meat. So I would take like the top half of the bun, I would throw that shit in the garbage, and I would just kind of eat the patties and like the bottom bun, because I still had like a little bit of carbs in the diet. I just had to kind of cut it down. And to my kind of surprise and amazement, I started to feel better. That for me was a huge turning point in my kind of anxiety, like recovery journey. Before that, I couldn't do anything. Like, I could barely get any exercise. I could barely go through. I was just exhausted and drained all the time, all day, every day. So I did end up having sleep apnea too, which definitely plays a role in terms of why I was so exhausted all the time. But I'll also get into why it's also dietary related, because I can still feel differences. Like, I'm still more sensitized than the average person to things that are going on in my body. So I know when I start to feel a little bit more anxious. I know when I'm more tired and more fatigued and exhausted than the average person probably would, because the little things still affect me more, and I can feel them more than like the average person still. So when that dietary change started, I went more toward animal based, I felt better. And there's certain things about me that totally kind of changed. I did for a while, was like really strict with it. And now, like looking back and things like that, to be honest, that was probably worth some of the like the best time, like the best that I felt. Now I kind of go back and forth. Like sometimes I cheat more than other times, and I'll go like I'll be strict with it for a while, and then I'll introduce more things. And it's amazing, like once you do that, it's amazing like how quickly your body strays and wants more junk food. Because like I'm a prime example. Like I went from having close to none and like no sugar. Like I was trying to eat no processed food, like no added sugar. Like greatly reduced the amount of carbs that I was eating. And I lost so much weight. Like unintended. Like I wanted to lose weight because I knew that I was heavier. But it wasn't like the main goal. Like I just wanted to feel better. But when I started to do that, I ended up losing like 60 pounds overall. And then when I started to stray, especially over the holidays, Christmas and New Year, when I started to do that, it was like, bam, 5 pounds like in a week, like nothing. Just from like introducing some sugars and some things like ice cream is like a big weakness for me. Like I love ice cream or cheesecake or something like that. And once I introduce that, like I just want more of it. And like it's like technically like a sugar addict kind of thing. Like once you start to eat that, like when you cut it out, it takes a while before your body kind of doesn't crave it anymore. So it is almost like a withdrawal kind of thing. And then after a little bit of time, which I guess is subjective, I guess everybody's different, like you won't really crave it anymore. But once you reintroduce it, you will start to crave it again. And you can notice certain things in your body, which I'll kind of touch on now. So like improvements for me when I switched from like the plant-based to more animal-based, and eventually going to like carnivore, before I kind of started to reintroduce some things and cheat and get off of that. The topic was skip heartbeats. Went from having like hundreds a day to barely now having any, which thank God for it, because it was hell on earth. It was literally absolutely freaking miserable. So like now I randomly have them, but absolutely no more than the average person. Like sometimes I could still feel them more probably than a normal person, but there's times where I'll go months like without feeling anything and not having anything that I know of. And then there's times where like, I can have like 2 or 3 in a night. Usually it's if I eat something that doesn't agree, like if it's something spicy, like it's certain seasoning that I might put on a steak, then I have a higher propensity for feeling them or having a couple of them. But nothing like it used to be. Like it was bad. Like I would just be like sitting down, laying down. I'd be afraid to move. I couldn't do anything. And like I would just sit around waiting to feel something, and if I felt it would just be like bang, like just immediate, just kind of adrenaline dumping, like flowing throughout like your entire body. And people that are kind of experiencing that, this is kind of going to cross like a couple of different platforms, from like the carnivore diet kind of community to like the anxiety type of community. So the carnivore people who are just looking for dietary advice and looking to kind of get in a better way of life that way, they won't know like what I'm talking about. But the people in like the anxiety community who deal with like cardiophobia and the skipped heartbeats, they will know exactly what I'm talking about and how debilitating it is. So like that fixed itself in a sense. And again, like, I'll never know exactly what caused it to jump off like that. Like it all kind of started a couple weeks after COVID. So it could have been, just COVID related, what COVID had done to like my heart, my organs, or whatever. I'm sure it could have had something to do with it. Like I never got jab. I never got any booster. Like I never got anything like that. Because I know that also has drummed up a lot of kind of adverse effects, and like people have had dealt with a lot of kind of heart issues since that has come along too, and that's kind of swept under the rug. So you know, do your own research on that. I won't kind of go any further into it, but whatever. If you have any comments, ask down below. I'll kind of let you know my stance on some things. But so outside of that, the topic kind of went away. And in other videos too, like I make a point to talk about all these different ways and different approaches that I feel like somebody should take when their anxiety is really bad and they're going through a real struggle like that. And diet is a huge one. It's one of the most important ones. And I absolutely recommend you take 3 months and go carnivore and just cut out a lot of shit. Not completely, because I know like your body can kind of go a little bit haywire, but you know, you cut back drastically on a lot of junky foods, and I can all but promise you that you'll feel better about life in general, about your situation, and things will improve. Because the next thing that I'll also touch on that improved for me was just like the mental clarity and the overall like mentality and outlook. So like in the early stages of everything, like it was just misery. Like I was always depressed and upset and like in a complete funk and wondering like what the hell was happening to me, what was happening with my life. Everything was kind of going downhill. And essentially I got to the point where it was like my life was over. And then that all kind of culminated when I woke up and like, bigeminy or trigeminy or whatever the hell it is, when my heart was skipping beats like every second, like every couple seconds it was just missing beats. And it happened for like 6 or 7 hours. And I was in the emergency room thinking I was like gonna have a heart attack, thinking I was dying. Worst morning, worst experience of my life. Absolutely, just absolutely horrendous. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it was just absolutely miserable. And that was the worst of it. Now I just thought like everything was done, like I was over. I would never be able to work. I would never be able to enjoy myself. It was just, oh my God. Like again, hell on earth is like a perfect freaking example. But when I changed my diet and started to, like, everything just kind of improved, and it just ties into my energy levels also, because like I was never a morning person, and I was always dead ass tired. Like if I woke up in the morning, this is even going back, this is before sleep apnea, before I gained a lot of weight. I was never a morning person. Like I would always wake up and wait till the last second. I would be just lay in bed till I absolutely had to. I'm still like a kind of relatively lazy person, but I have exponentially more energy now than I did before. Like I wake up, I don't feel dead tired. I could go through my day now in work with no problems and no real kind of crashes, so I don't feel dead fatigue where I used to before. Like there were times where I would on lunch, I would go on lunch through previous employees and things. I would be outside in my car and I would literally be falling asleep, and there are some cases where I did fall asleep for a couple minutes just for like a little nap. I haven't done that in years, like ever since this whole kind of thing started. And it does obviously tie into the sleep apnea thing too, but I didn't really have it. Like I got sleep tests done in the past before I even had a diagnosis for sleep apnea, and I didn't have it. So I was just exhausted for some reason, because my sleep also wasn't great. Like I would wake up numerous times during the night before getting diagnosed with sleep apnea, before gaining excess weight. Which now I don't do. Like I can sleep through a night now, 7 hours, or usually 7.5 hours. And I don't wake up. Whereas before that was impossible. I would wake up numerous times to go to the bathroom, whatever. Then eventually when I did gain weight and I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, obviously like you wake up multiple times during the night. Sometimes you don't even know it, but it's another area in all my other videos that I tell people to get checked out. Because, it's, in a lot of cases it's fixable. But even if it's not, it's, sleep is an integral, like, I think it's I don't want to say underappreciated, but it's an under-noticed kind of thing when it comes to your quality of life and your mental outlook. Like if you don't get good quality sleep and you're always tired, like it's just going to bring everything down, and it's going to make you less positive and less optimistic, and you're just going to kind of be a little bit more miserable. So, if you're dealing with anything, basically, if you're dealing with like anxiety, and you're dealing with like any kind of health issues, and especially if you're a little bit overweight, set up an appointment and go get a sleep test done. Find that out, because I think a lot of people probably have it. I think it is like an incredibly underdiagnosed condition that not a lot of people even look into. And when I started to get like comfortable, like wearing a sleep, I don't know if I still have it. I haven't been rechecked since like I lost a lot of weight. I plan on doing that, I guess, like relatively soon. But like when I started to get comfortable with the little mask thing, with the little like nasal pillows or whatever, like my sleep quality greatly improved. And then like with that combined with the diet, like I wake up and I'm essentially energized. Like I might feel a little bit tired for like a couple of minutes or so, but when I get up and moving, like I'm good, and like I don't crash, and I don't feel like going to sleep until like late at night, when it's actually time for me to kind of go to sleep. So that's another one, like the mental clarity, the ectopics, the outlook, and the energy levels. Like it's kind of night and day. And I think those three things kind of combined is a huge improvement, and will help 90+% of the people who deal with like the anxiety when it comes to like the diet. So just kind of take in what I had to say, even if you might not, like, you don't know much about it, you don't know much about how diet plays a role in your life. Start to like do a little bit of research and try to find out like a couple things that I say. Just try to do a little bit of digging, and try to find out a couple of answers for yourself, and see just if some of the things that I say kind of make sense, and then you just kind of go from there. Because I do think, to me anyway, it's just my own like anecdotal experience, but I've seen a lot more people talk about this like on YouTube and on people's Instagram. It's just another one of those things that it's not mainstream and it's not covered, but it has a lot of backing, and it just like you kind of have to look a little bit into it in order to see that, like the people that heal like autoimmune conditions, and the weight loss, which was another thing that I'll mention too. This is probably the last improvement that I'll mention because it's running a little bit long, but I think it's incredibly important. Like the weight loss, like, yeah, I wanted to lose weight, but it wasn't the main reason I made any changes. I just wanted to get back to normalcy because my life was literally awful. So the weight loss was an unintended bonus, and like once I started to do that, I started to lose even more. I lost some weight with the COVID because you couldn't eat, so I lost some like 15-20 pounds right off the bat. But it wasn't like a good losing weight. It was just because like I couldn't eat anything. And then I ended up switching my diet around and eating until I was full, and still ended up losing another 40 pounds. And that was the first time in years, or at least a year, that I actually had determination back, and I actually had like a little bit of bravery back, and I could start to exercise and start to push myself a little bit more. Because before that, I couldn't do anything. Like I remember in the summer, so I guess it wasn't last summer of 2022. I guess it may have been summer of 2021, when it was like it was just incredibly hot, and I bought an air conditioner, and I had to plug the thing in the wall. And even just like getting up, getting a cord, plugging cord into the wall, like made my heart race. And in some cases, like you do anything like physically exerting, and like your heart rate will pick up. But when you don't do anything physically exerting for a long time, like years, and then you have to deal with whatever you're dealing with when you're overly sensitized to, and you're always kind of in fight or flight, like it it just kind of exacerbates everything and makes it even faster and pick up even faster. Like I could barely do that. I'd just go pick up a cord and plug a cord into a wall without having my heart racing, without being scared, thinking like I had some kind of heart problem. So when I changed the diet too, like that actually made me braver. Like it just, I can't really probably describe it in the greatest terms, but it definitely made me determined to fix things. It made me brave enough to where I could actually jog and run a little bit, because that was an impossibility. I could barely walk. I would try to go for walks around my neighborhood like I'm doing right this second, and I would make it 5 feet, and I would be like kind of like an emotional roller coaster already, because I would think like, oh my, like what if something happened to me and I and I just like drop right here in walking in the parking lot, and like it kind of started to dissipate a bit. And even though I would think certain things, I would still push myself through it, and I had more just like mental strength and like bravery that like I could keep kind of going. So like I guess that's 4 things I guess right there. And I will also say too, like when you make the changes, like you're gonna see if you do want to try it for 3 months. And I would say that to just take 3 months and really try it, or take 2 and just really try it. You can YouTube how to do a carnivore diet, or how to just do like ketovore diet, and just like kind of cut out some things and just give it a shot for 2 months. So people are gonna say like cholesterol, because I ate like a ton of eggs. Like every morning I would wake up, I had like 5 or 6 eggs, and then I would maybe even have some for lunch, or some for dinner. Or for dinner I would have steak, and I would have ground meat, like just like saturated fat and cholesterol. And people are like, oh well, if you eat that, then your cholesterol is going to go up and you're going to have a heart attack and all this kind of stuff. And firstly I was like, oh well, I'm feeling better and all my blood work is improving and I'm losing weight, and it didn't really make sense to me. Like everything is improving, but my cholesterol might be going up. So this is bad for me. Like when everything is improving and I'm feeling better and I'm able to live my life and go back to work and get my life together, like it didn't make sense. So I was getting all my blood work done and my labs done and my lipid panels done. And the first time I did it, I was strict. All eggs, meat, steaks, was all I ate for like, I don't know how long it was until I got my test, the labs done. But my cholesterol barely went up. It went from like 202 to 215, and all I did was eat saturated fat and cholesterol, right? And I wasn't really all that active in terms of exercise. So like then, fast forward a couple months, I still stuck with it. I was still doing it. I got my lipid panel and my blood work done again, and my cholesterol was like 192. It was under 200. So it's just not true. I mean, and it wasn't true in my case that if you eat that kind of stuff, like your cholesterol is going to skyrocket and you're going to gain weight and you're going to be unhealthy. I lost 40 pounds. My cholesterol went down, and I started to get back to some sense of normalcy. So take that for what it's worth. That's my experience with that. I kind of think it's a load of bullshit, and the medical industry and big pharma and all that kind of stuff, they make money when you're sick. So it's kind of an irony, and it's kind of like a conflict of interest. But they do better when you're not healthy. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. But and then I'll say that with the energy levels, when I started to implement more sugary, junky food back into my diet, I feel more tired, and there are crashes throughout the day. And I'll notice that if I eat a lot of sugar, first of all, sometimes I get insanely bad cramping because I still have like some unresolved kind of gut issues from like my lifelong diet that I've had, which has been terrible. So there's still some issues that I'm kind of trying to still work out in terms of gut health. But like I could get really bad kind of cramping and IBS kind of based symptoms. But I'll also feel really fatigued sometimes, and I will have some sort of crashes where I'll just feel burnt out. And when I was really strict, I absolutely did not have that. So I have to attribute that to like the role that sugar and like excess carbs play. And I don't think it matters which type of carb you have, because it all just kind of turns into sugar. So like I kind of leave it at that. That's just kind of what I wanted to touch on. I think that the carnivore diet is really, really a good starting point for somebody. Like if they're just trying to change something because you have really bad anxiety. In most cases, like the people that are going to come across this video, like just because you have bad anxiety and you want to make a change or something, but you just don't know where to begin. Like I have a lot of videos on that. Even in like a short time frame, like I put out a lot of videos on that. So like check those out and take 2 months and just make that change. Like just try it out and see how you feel in 2 months. And like I can bet you, like I would really love to see people come back in like a couple weeks or a month and just like let me know what their results were, because I can guarantee you that you're gonna lose weight. Like I can guarantee you that. Like if you do it the right way and you cut down the carbs a lot and you just eat like beef, butter, bacon, and eggs essentially, and some salt. If you just kind of do that for a month, like I can guarantee that you're going to lose weight, you're going to feel better, and your outlook is going to be more positive. Like I can promise you that. So just try it for a month and then come back and like, let me know like how that goes. Because for the most part, but most people will never go, like, at least not willingly go back. Like you might slip up and try some things and it might get you kind of falling back into bad like lifestyle habits and dietary habits, because it does with me if I do that. But at least you kind of know like what makes you feel better and like start to figure out like what makes you feel worse. And then you just kind of go from there. Because if you're somebody that comes across these videos and you're a vegan, like that's a very big reason, like as to why that you have more anxiety. And you can find videos about that, about like the B12 deficiencies and like the nutrient deficiencies that people get when they go to veganism for long periods of time, because your body still has some things stored up and you just run through them and then you start to crash. Like your body just starts to kind of break down a little bit. So, if you made it to the end of this video, I thank you very much. Typically I try to keep, I do my best to try to keep things shorter, but I feel like sometimes I go on rants. But a lot of times I think there's a lot of information packed into these videos. So hopefully you make it a long way through the video, and hopefully you made it to the end. And that's my experience that I have with the carnivore diet. I will never go back to eating standard American diet. I will always be more animal based, and I might just add in some fruits or something, like a small amount of carbs here and there. But I'll just never go back to kind of eating the way that I used to eat before. So just thank you very much for taking the time to watch the whole video. I hope you got something from it. If you did, comment down below, and don't forget to like the videos, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.